Welcome back to Normal Baseball. We have just one weekend left in the 2023 regular season, and some of these series have major playoff implications. We're going to talk about it all right now. Welcome back to Normal Baseball. I'm Alex Normal Dog. That's Lewis. And obviously, it's the last weekend of the 2023 regular season in MLB, and this is shaping up to be a pretty fun weekend. There are two or three playoff races, separate playoff races that have not been yet determined and will be determined in these final 3 games of the season, which is going to be really fun, really exciting, and we're ready for it all. We're ready to talk about it. Obviously, last episode on Monday or Tuesday, we updated you guys about what the rest of the week would look like, and that week has happened. Obviously, I would say one of the playoff races, one of the bigger ones, the AL West kind of not narrowed down, but got a little interesting.
Closer.
Got a little closer, a little more interesting. The Astros went into Seattle and took 2 of 3 from the Mariners.
Yeah.
We kind of weren't expecting that. We were expecting the Mariners to use their home field advantage and, at least take 2 games, maybe even sweep, and that is just not at all how it went. The Astros sit currently a game up on the Mariners. They're in the wild card spot, and the Rangers sit 2 games ahead of the Astros for the division lead. In fact, the Rangers just need to win 1 more game to win the division.
Yeah. Will they do that tonight?
I don't know if they'll do it tonight, but they tried to do it last night.
Yeah.
And last night it didn't really work. So the Mariners and the Rangers are playing a series, last series of the year against one another. And obviously major playoff implications for the Mariners and the Rangers. The Rangers are ahead, but they're not guaranteed yet. They're guaranteed playoffs, but they're not guaranteed to win the division. So what I mean by that is, well, actually, they haven't clinched the playoffs, I don't think. No, they haven't clinched the playoffs. My fault. So this is a big series for both teams.
Yeah.
And the Rangers had a 2-1 lead going into the bottom of the 9th inning of last night's game in Seattle. And they brought in Aroldis Chapman to try to close out that game.
There's no words other than might not have been the best decision.
Might not have been the best decision indeed, because Chapman allowed 2 hits and a walk and loaded the bases without recording an out. So now the Rangers have a 1-run lead. The bases are loaded with no outs in the bottom of the 9th inning for the Mariners. So not looking too great. They brought in another pitcher. He got 2 outs, but then with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning, J.P. Crawford hit a 2-run double, and the Mariners won the game. So the Mariners did inch closer. They are now just a game out of the wild card, right behind the Astros, of course. Yeah. And this is going to be a really fun last 3 games to see how this AL West pans out. Because I think one scenario is if are the Mariners playing 3 more games against the...
Yes.
So Friday, Saturday, Sunday the Mariners have against the Rangers.
Yes, they do.
So I think if the Mariners sweep the Rangers and the Astros sweep the Diamondbacks, the Astros will win the division. Because the Rangers just need 1 more game to win that division.
Yeah,
but if they get swept and the Astros don't lose either, they might not even make the playoffs, which would be absolutely insane. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is, they take a game tonight or tomorrow or Sunday and just kind of end it. We're the AL West champions. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Another is that the Diamondbacks sweep the Astros and the Mariners sweep the Rangers and the Astros don't make the playoff. There's a lot of different scenarios that could play out here, and I think it's going to be very fun and interesting to see how this plays out. Not to mention the Blue Jays in the AL wild card. They're only a game up. They're only a game up in that 2nd spot. So
yeah, I think so the Blue Jays played a series. I think it was 3 games, right?
Against the Yankees.
Yeah, against the Yankees, and Toronto did not look good. only scoring in one of the games, and that one game is the one that they won 6-0, I believe.
Against the worst pitcher for the Yankees in that series.
Yeah.
So
nothing more that you can do there in terms of if you're Toronto, like, what's done is done. You lost 2 out of 3. And now when you were sitting pretty, 3 games up? Now you're only a game up in the wild card with Houston and Seattle both foaming at the mouth at the thought of they could get in. And there's a world where now we're talking about 3 teams from the AL West making it over the Toronto Blue Jays.
Not to mention, the Blue Jays, looked really bad. They looked silly in those games.
A little bit.
They, Garrett Cole threw a complete game shutout, which his Cy Young case is pretty much over. Yeah. He's probably going to win the AL Cy Young. I would be worried if I'm a Blue Jays fan. They're not really winning games convincingly anymore. They, again, lost 2 of 3 to the Yankees, who, I've been saying, haven't been as bad as everyone says in the last month. But regardless, they're in the middle of a playoff push, and they're only a game up on that wild card. They're playing the Rays this weekend, who the Rays are comfortably. If the Rays sweep them this weekend, they get to 100 wins. So the Rays are still playing for something despite being in the playoffs already. So, what?
No, the Rays are still playing for something, for sure.
Right. They if they get 100 wins, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So there's a world where, we're talking about all this AL West talk about who's going to win the division, what's going to happen, and they all might make it, depending on what the Blue Jays do. Because if the Blue Jays get swept and those other teams start winning, they'll all make it.
I
think it's crazy.
Yeah, I do think that in terms of the Toronto Blue Jays, I would be very worried because not so much of your offense. Yes, the offense got shut down by the 2023 AL Cy Young winner, no question, in Garrett Cole. What are you gonna do? What I'm more worried about if I were a Blue Jays fan would be their depth. I mean, Whit Merrifield and Santiago Espinal are the guys that are getting at bats, getting the starts even, whether it be in left field or somewhere in the infield, which worries me because they're not playing as well as they should be. I think, is that fair to say? They're not playing up to the standard that we know that they can play at.
Well, and they have Kevin Biggio starting at second base. That's obviously not cutting it either.
Oh my God.
A 230 hitter is not really...
The disrespect.
A 700 OPS isn't really doing it for them. Barely reaching 700 OPS, by the way. I don't know. Their pitching obviously is not the problem. They have good pitching. Yeah. They have very good pitching. That's not the issue. Just they got to score more runs.
They do. It's that simple.
I mean, we say simple, but they're gonna have to face Aaron Savale, Zach Littell, and Taj Bradley this weekend. I think that they could score some runs off those guys. So I think there is a route to them just kind of winning. Even if they take one from the Rays, I think they're in a good spot. I think one might be their number to make the playoffs. I'm not 100% sure. Magic numbers are very confusing. I want to say that if the Blue Jays win one more game, they will be in the playoffs because there would only be 2 games left in the season. I think winning 2 games would clinch the playoffs. Winning 1 game would clinch a tiebreaker. But I don't know who would win the tiebreaker over who in that scenario.
I can check.
Okay. The Blue Jays would beat the Astros in a tiebreaker, but would lose to both the Mariners and the Rangers in a tiebreaker.
Oh, that would be funny.
So...
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like chaos. And I root for chaos.
Oh, I'm rooting for chaos. I want it to happen very badly. I want as much chaos as possible. I want ties in every single division, ties in the wild card races, everything. One division that there won't be a tie in is the AL East, though. Because the AL East is settled. The Orioles clinched the AL East last night.
Wow.
Not only did they clinch the AL East, but they clinched 100 wins. 100 wins on the season.
That is bizarre.
That's very
crazy.
Good. Who would have thought 100 wins. It's the first time since, I think, 1990 or something like that the Orioles have 100 wins.
Oh, my God.
Which is very good for them. They're looking very good. Their organization's going in a great direction. And the Orioles.
Yeah,
What do you have to say about the Orioles?
They proved so much wrong to not just you and I, but to everyone throughout all of baseball, whether it be, the GM of an irrelevant team to their even their own players.
What?
They've proven everyone wrong this year by going out here and not only overperforming the expectation that everyone had of saying, oh, Tampa's going to run away with it. Oh, this is the Blue Jays' time to now run away with it. The Yankees are still dangerous. Everyone was saying all those things and not counting in the Orioles. So the Orioles took that and ran with it. Between the fans and everything going on within the confines of the stadium, and then on top of that, seeing some of the best baseball in the entire sport, in the entire league being played, out of guys that perform like they're seasoned veterans. But you're talking about Adley, Gunnar Henderson, Keston Herstad, all of those players, rookies, or under the age of 30 even. Like their pitching staff is
under the age of like 25.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
25.
say 30.
Like, it's ridiculous. Their pitching is amazing. Hopefully Felix Bautista can be 100% ready to go for the playoffs, because he is a massive part of how the Orioles got to 100 wins. Everything is just amazing.
My biggest thing with this Orioles team that I'm most impressed with is their starting pitching, because going into the season, I said that was the thing that I was most worried about this season. And even they didn't really have an ace. Kyle Gibson was their one starter heading into this season. He's really been their fifth starter all year. Because suddenly, heading into this playoff push, they have like two aces. Because Grayson Rodriguez has been absolutely lights out recently. And Kyle Bradish has been dealing all season. So they've been just kind of getting the starting pitching they've needed to win games. And it's been really clutch for them. Because Grayson Rodriguez, the amount he struggled in the beginning of the season when he got called up, it looked like, he wasn't going to be that guy. Not this season, at least. He had more development to do. He had more to look forward to until he really started to get into his shell. But in his last 7 games, he's got a 2.20 ERA in 41 innings pitched. He's been absolutely incredible. His last 7 starts, yeah. He is one of the reasons they're winning games, and Kyle Bradish needs to be talked about too, because he should probably be somewhere in the AL Cy Young consideration. I'm not saying, obviously, I think it's Garrett Cole's to lose, but Kyle Bradish has been the ace of this staff. He's got a 2.86 ERA this season. He's been incredible as well. Not to mention, John Means just came back from Tommy John surgery last season, and he's been dominant too. Well, he's been good too. It's obviously 3 starts, a little too early to tell if he'll continue to be that way. But, just last week, he went 7 innings, no earned. He took the no-hitter into the 7th. I think 7 1/3 he wound up going. So
he has it. He still has it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, this rotation has been incredibly, what's the word?
Efficient?
I mean, efficient and just successful. They look really good, successful, and if you can get to that bullpen, the bullpen is going to be there. They have the 5th best bullpen ERA in baseball.
And Shintaro Fujinami, baby.
And Shintaro Fujinami. Fuji. So all's looking good for the Orioles heading into the playoffs. They're rolling, and obviously we'll talk more about it when we do a playoff preview or whatever, what the playoffs could look like for the Orioles.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm an Orioles fan, I'm very excited for the playoffs to just start already.
Agreed.
I'm excited for that. I did want to go backwards really quick to the Astros-Mariners series that happened this week.
Okay.
Because there was a situation that happened between 2 players on those teams. Julio Rodriguez was up to the plate. Were the bases loaded? Or just Julio Rodriguez was up to the plate. Like Hector Neris was pitching, and Neris struck out J-Rod on 3 pitches. And obviously that's not an issue. You strike the guy out on 3 pitches in a tight playoff race. Emotions are high. But right after the strikeout, he walked towards Julio and was just screaming at him, like directly at him. And obviously Julio took exception to that and started walking towards Neris. And then the benches cleared and everyone kind of got, pushed back and all that. So It was a whole big situation. I want to know, what did you think of it? I think it was pretty
I thought it was
childish.
It made sense. Hector Neris and a lot of the guys, especially in the Astros, know that this should not be their fate come this time of year, even beforehand. They're coming off of a dominant World Series run where they won it all, and now they're stuck here. Part of it, I don't know, the whole build-up to how they got there, I don't really want to jump into, because that's a whole other thing. It was more of Hector Neris had not been the best pitcher, or the pitcher that we saw him to be last year, and I think that him getting a 3-pitch strikeout on, I think, undoubtedly the best player in the Mariners lineup right now in Julio was just something that, it's emotions. Just as much as, if Julio were to have hit a home run there, I bet you he's bat flipping. I bet you he's going to watch it fly a little bit. He won't round first until after the ball lands. Well, it's just all emotion. I think when it got taken too far was as Julio was walking back to the dugout with his head hanging low and, bat in the hand and all that, not really, he's upset, obviously. It's very, you could tell that he was upset. It was Hector Neris walking towards him and saying something. Or just,
but that's the
getting in his
that's
ear.
The whole point.
That's the extra.
That's the whole thing I'm asking you.
What?
Obviously, if J-Rod hit a home run there, he would have celebrated and would have bat flipped, but he wouldn't have started staring at Neris and started yelling at him.
No, he made
That's my whole point.
Hector Neris made it too personal.
Right, but that's the whole point of what I'm saying. By the way, you said he hasn't been as good as last year. He's been way better than he was last year. He's got a 1.78 ERA. Last season he had a almost 4 ERA. You could say all you want. He's been better than he was last year. This is the best season of his career so far. He's been awesome. I understand the emotions are running wild, but don't yell at the other player. I'm all for celebrating. Let the kids play. Celebrate all you want. Be as hype as you want, but you don't have to yell at the other players. You could yell at your bench and have it be just as electric.
I think it was
your team will celebrate with you, but then if you yell at the other team, obviously they're not going to celebrate with you. They're not going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was very childish. I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah, it was over the top a little bit in terms of getting in Julio's face type of thing. That's when I draw the line. I'm like, okay, yell, scream, celebrate everything you just said, but with your team. Not at the team that you just dominated on the mound.
That's the point I'm trying to make. That's the exact point I'm trying to make.
It was just a little ridiculous.
It was. I just want to talk a little bit about that situation, and there's something else going on there. I don't really want to talk about the other thing that's happening with that, but it didn't need to be mentioned, because now if these two teams face off in the playoffs,
a little bit extra fuck you on either side.
It's going to be even more crazy. Which, if they were to face off in the playoffs, it'd be a pretty tough path to get there. Unless they both make the last 2 wild card spots, then they'd play each other. No, they wouldn't. It'd be really tough. The only way they'd meet in the playoffs is if they met in the ALCS, which would be a tough thing to do.
Which would be crazy if either team made it that far.
Not necessarily. If one of them wins the division, the other one's the 6th seed, it's possible. So, I don't know. We'll see. It's very unlikely. But if it were to happen, it would be crazy.
Give me some chaos. I'm in for chaos.
We love chaos here. Yeah. If we want to move on to the NL wild card, I think the NL wild card is almost just as chaotic. Because
it's there.
Teams are in, teams are out. They've been hopping in and out all week. Tiebreaker scenarios have been floating around. Lots been going on. I want to quickly talk about the Miami Marlins. Obviously, they're in the middle of a really intense playoff push. The Marlins haven't necessarily made the playoffs all that much in recent years.
Yeah.
They're trying to make the playoffs this year.
True.
they played the Mets this week, and the Mets were coming off a 6-game road trip. And they knew there was going to be rain in New York last weekend, but they didn't cover the field with the tarp. So the field was unplayable on Tuesday, and they had to postpone the game and make a doubleheader on Wednesday. A doubleheader is horrible for the Marlins because they have to use more pitchers. They have to use their bullpen. And not only that, but the Marlins don't have a crazy good bullpen either. No. So using that many pitchers in one day because of a doubleheader is...
fumes.
Right, using that many pitchers in one day because of a doubleheader isn't good. So that was a whole situation, and everyone was like, why wouldn't you cover the field with the tarp? You knew there was rain coming. Obviously, the Mets and Marlins are rivals, but that doesn't mean you have to make it so you're trying to spoil their playoff chances. If you're going to spoil their playoff chances, do that with your play.
Do it on the field, not with the field.
Right. But then it got even worse yesterday when the Marlins and the Mets were in the last game of the series, and it was the top of the ninth, and the Marlins took a 2-1 lead. And right after the Marlins took the lead, the Mets put the tarp on the field, and after a 3-hour rain delay, the game was postponed. And now the game's going to be played on Monday. The rest of the game. It was the top of the ninth inning with 2 outs. That game was going to end very soon.
Yeah.
And they called the game, and not only did they call the game, but they didn't make it a final. They're still replaying this game.
I mean, because there's serious playoff implications.
Right, but you can't play through the rain or something.
Or wait, I don't care.
Are the Mets home this weekend?
What's up?
Are the Mets even home this weekend?
I assume so.
They are. They're against the Phillies. But, you can't
just
play through the rain. It couldn't have been that bad. Not even an inning of baseball. Half an inning.
It was bad. It was pretty bad.
I'm sure it really wasn't that bad. That it was not raining that bad for 3 hours. I can guarantee.
Oh no, it definitely was not.
They said that the field was not in playing condition after the rain ended, which is complete and utter. I don't know.
You know what that means? You know what that means?
The Marlins.
That means I'm tired. I want to go home. That's what the umpires.
The Marlins are in. Well, it's not the umpire's call. It's the grounds crew call.
That's what the grounds crew was saying.
The Marlins are in the middle of this playoff push, and the Mets in 3 days, in the span of 3 days, had 2 incredibly horrible rain situations that cost the Marlins time and effort. Now they have to play on Monday. The Marlins, they could clinch, on Saturday, but they still have to play on Monday. And then the playoffs start on what, Tuesday? When's the first playoff game?
It's the 3rd.
Yeah, Tuesday. First playoff game's on Tuesday. They would have to play on Monday in New York. And if they did make that 6th wild card spot or 6th playoff spot, they'd have to play in Milwaukee. So they'd have to fly from New York to Milwaukee in one. I don't know. It's just
the turnaround is ridiculous when they could have just called the game.
I think I saw something that in one of the rules that said if the opposing team's grounds crew or they had intent with not replaying the game or not starting the game again after a rain delay, then you can protest and have them forfeit the game, which is a tough scenario. I think that this is how it should work. If the Marlins clinch the playoffs in these next couple days,
then the Mets should
forfeit because there's no point in playing then after that.
Let them travel to Milwaukee. Let them get in their time to get ready for a playoff game, not worrying about the Mets who have been out of it for a month and a half now.
Right, but then if you look at it from the other perspective, not only that, but I forgot to mention, the Mets grounds crew, while the rain was happening and after all this, the Mets grounds crew, after all this happened, were smiling and taking group pictures right in front of the Marlins dugout, which I find insane. Obviously, if you look at this from the other side, if you're a Mets fan, you're like, come on, it was raining. We didn't mean to do that. We can't control the rain. I don't really know how you dispute the fact that you didn't put the tarp on the field on the weekend.
That was probably just poor planning, poor thinking.
That still doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. But that's probably what it was.
That's not something that just you don't think about because obviously we're from New York. That rain was heavily forecasted. It's not like no one knew about it.
No,
everyone knew that.
Well documented.
Everyone knew that rain was coming. So it's a little weird. I'm not gonna say that it was suspicious or that the Mets are trying to kill the Marlins' playoff hopes, but it is a very unfortunate scenario, and it certainly can be looked at as the Mets were trying to make the Marlins waste their pitchers on one day and have them not make the playoffs.
And let's be real, it's also not like the grounds crew of every team travels with the team. The Mets were out of town. That doesn't mean that the grounds crew cannot go to the field at some point. Right. I don't care if it was with half staff. Hell, if the Mets would have called up me, I would have gone to put the fucking tarp on the field. Ridiculous that no one, even during all the weather that we had, and the Mets had so much time to take care of this without needing to make it a big spectacle, and they still didn't. That was very upsetting to me. That's very unprofessional, to not even take care of your own field when you know that the team that's coming, just as much as we don't, we're going to play our ass off, we want to play on the best field possible because we have a chance to kick out a rival team out of the playoffs. It's just, the whole situation was stupid. I feel bad for the Marlins because of now, yes, extra travel, burning more bullpen arms and all that. It's not a good look, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, that's another part. If you're not even talking about the travel, if they play on Monday, they're using pitchers on Monday.
Yeah, going into Tuesday.
They need pitchers for that playoff series if they were to make it. So
I think
playing on Monday would be horrible.
They're going to try to limp through that one inning.
Well, if they already clinch, then
they're going to still try to limp. They don't want to.
They're going to use their least highest leverage. They don't care if they win that game at that point.
Yeah.
If they already clinched, they don't care if they win. So they're going to use their worst bullpen arm. So,
but if it comes down to that game,
that's another scenario. That would become very crazy. We'll have to see. The Marlins this weekend are playing the Pirates. So if they can get a couple wins in there, then they'll probably clinch. Although they could not, because right now the NL wild card, the Diamondbacks are a game and a half up. So I think they need one more win and they'll clinch. I think their magic number is 1 because there's 3 games left.
Yeah,
if they win 1,
They'll
be 2.5 games up, which would be impossible to come back from.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think yes, the Diamondbacks' magic number should be 1, if not 2.
No, I think it. Well, who's played one less game? I guess it would be the Marlins, right? So they're only 1.5 games up on the Marlins. They're 2 games up on the Cubs, and the Cubs are half a game back of the Marlins because the Marlins didn't finish that game yesterday.
Yeah.
So
the 0.5 is throwing me for a loop.
The 0.5 is but the Diamondbacks are 2 games up on the Cubs. So if they win one more, they'll be 3 games up with 2 games left to play. It would be impossible.
Yeah.
So the Diamondbacks' magic number is 1. The Marlins, on the other hand,
God, I love doing math.
The Marlins and Cubs are basically tied right now.
Yeah.
So, honestly, that game on Monday will probably matter no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs are going to play the Brewers. Let me try to think this out. So, if the Cubs lose, Marlins win, that would be 1 game, so they'd be 1.5 up. The Cubs win, Cubs lose again, Marlins win again, that would be 2.5 games up. So I think the Marlins need to win 2, and the Cubs need to lose 2.
Well,
to clinch.
Or the Marlins can just win 2. Because at that point, then
it
would come down to just Monday.
Right. Well, no, it would come Sunday, Monday. But they would be 2.5 games out, so it wouldn't matter.
Well, no, because it would come down to... Oh, well, yeah. You're right. I mean, there is also a world, of course...
Or if the Cubs lose to the Marlins.
The Houston Astros could sweep the Diamondbacks, and the Miami Marlins and the Chicago Cubs could get in over
that would be crazy.
Now, that would be something. I don't trust this Cubs team right now, but that would be interesting.
I don't trust this Cubs team either. They've lost 3 in a row.
Before that, they lost 4 or 5 in a row?
Yeah, they've been on a really, really bad stretch recently. I don't know. And the Padres aren't out yet. The Reds are also a game and a half back, but they've been also really bad recently. They're going to play the Cardinals, so maybe. But the Padres are still in it, technically. 3.5 games back with 3 games left to play.
If the Padres make it, holy God.
See, it's hard to look at this because the Padres are 3.5 games back, But in all reality,
Should be 4.
it should be 4 and they would be eliminated. Because if the Marlins won last night, they would be eliminated. But there is a world. This would be the world where the Padres make the playoffs.
Let's hear
This
it.
would be... It's not going to happen.
Let's hear it.
The Reds would have to get swept.
Okay.
Or rather, the Marlins would have to get swept.
Right.
The Cubs would have to get swept.
Yeah.
The Reds, I think, would have to lose 2 of 3. The Padres obviously would have to sweep. And then the Marlins would have to blow the 2-1 lead on Monday.
In the 9th inning.
In the bottom of the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Well, they still have room in the top. When that game resumes on Monday for the Marlins
Are they
Mets,
still in top 9?
they're still in the top of the 9th. So the
You know,
Marlins had
very-
first and second with 2 outs.
So
that's how the Padres make the playoffs. It's probably not going to
they
happen.
don't control their own destiny. Neither does Cincy, because the teams above them can just win.
It sucks because the Padres have played so good recently.
Yeah, they finally figured out how to play baseball
Yeah.
after waiting. Also, congratulations. Let's clap it up for the Padres. Got their first extra innings win
Yes.
last night. Not
There.
last night, a few nights ago.
1-12 in extra innings now.
Wow.
Incredible.
With one of the, on paper, one of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah. Well, we'll see next season.
Yeah, we'll see next
Imagine they won even half of those games in
season.
extra innings.
If they won 8 of them, they would be comfortably in a
If they won
spot.
6 of them, they'd be comfortably in a wild. They'd be at the same thing as the Diamondbacks. They'd be above the Diamondbacks right now if they won just 6 of those games in extra
Oh, yeah,
innings.
you're right. They would be. It's bizarre. The Padres. That's a head case for the offseason
Padres
that
crazy
we'll talk
season.
about.
Yeah, crazy season.
Yeah.
But what else you got for the wild card? Any thoughts on just the playoffs in general?
I do think that it's come down to two teams, Marlins and Cubs, for that third wild card, just because they control their own destiny of win, win, win. Yes, the Cubs need to get lucky, that the Miami Marlins drop a game or two. But the Cubs have just not been playing good baseball. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what goes on here with the division. I think right now, how it looks with the Philly being the 4 seed, obviously they clinched, and then the Diamondbacks and the Marlins being the 5 and 6. I think that's how it will end up being. I think that's the outlook that I have on this, and I'm just excited, man. Like, the postseason is 3 days away, 4 days away, honestly. Get me there already. I feel like the days are going slower and slower because I just want the playoffs to be here.
I'm honestly not even in a rush to get to the playoffs. I'm looking really forward to these last 3 days of the season, possibly 4, depending on what happens with that Marlins Mets game. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm very excited to see who wins, who loses, who comes up clutch, the crazy moments that we finally get to see that have kind of built up all season, and it's gonna be fun.
Do you want to make your little prediction on what goes on in the AL West and the NL Wild Card?
And the AL wild card.
Well, the AL West is the AL Wild Card.
Toronto. I think the Rangers will win the AL West. I think they'll win that last game. Well, maybe not necessarily the last game of the season, but you know what I mean. They'll win another game. And then I think the Astros will take that last wild card spot. I think the Blue Jays will stay in there too. So I think it'll be the Mariners missing the playoffs this season.
Okay. I think Houston's gonna win the division.
Win the division.
I do.
So
I think the Mariners are gonna get the third wild card spot with the Blue Jays staying.
So right now you think the Rangers are not going to make the playoffs?
I just because it's separated by what is it? A game, right?
No.
Yeah, a game. Yes, it is. The Mariners are only 1 game out of the wild card. I think there's a world where Seattle beats Texas and Houston takes care of business in the desert, and we're talking about the Rangers missing the playoffs. I think that's the most likely outcome in my mind. That's
the most likely?
No,
Are
that's
you
my
insane?
prediction. That's my prediction.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, that's not the most likely outcome. I don't know, man. 3 games left to play. The Rangers are 2 games up in the division. They literally just need to win 1 game. And I think they probably... Who do they have going this weekend?
I don't know. We could take a look.
Texas. And who are they facing? Because that's a big thing as well.
I mean,
Nathan Eovaldi, John Gray, and Cody Bradford on the last day of the season, but that could not matter.
Nathan Eovaldi.
If they're gonna win a game, it's gonna be tonight. Nathan Eovaldi against Brian Wu.
He hasn't looked as good since coming back from injury, but
it's more about who they're facing, because Luis Castillo and George Kirby are going to be two guys that are hard to beat. I think if they're going to win one, it's going to be tonight. And I don't think the Mariners make the playoffs. I know you love the Mariners, and I know you want them to make the playoffs, but I don't think they will.
I need Jared Kelenic in the playoffs. I need it more than air. But that's what I think. In terms of the National League wild card, what are you thinking?
I think it stays the same.
Agreed.
I said this earlier in the week. Diamondbacks Marlins gonna end it out, gonna finish it out, and I still think that is how it's gonna work. Yeah. I am worried for the Marlins in the playoffs too.
Well, playing the Brewers
against teams that are over 500, the Marlins are 36-46, so not great. And playing the Brewers are a very good team. Kind of underrated this season. Yeah, I'd say. I didn't have faith in them going into the season. I'll be the first to admit it. But they've been really good. They put together a really good season. So I think Diamondbacks Marlins. And you think that same thing?
Yeah, Diamondbacks Marlins for sure. I believe we are only separate on the AL wildcard situation.
Yeah, one other thing needs to be mentioned, that the Braves have clinched home field advantage for the entire playoffs. So, if they were to make the World Series, they'd have home field advantage for every series, no matter who they play. And congratulations to Ronald Acuna Jr., the first ever 40-70 season in MLB history, 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases. Absolutely incredible. I don't think people realize just how amazing that actually is. I don't care how big they make the bases. That is incredible. Congrats to him. This Braves team, we'll talk about them more when we actually start talking about the playoff preview, because that's why we have it. If you noticed this episode, we weren't really talking about the Braves, the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Orioles we talked about just because they clinched. The Twins, the Twins. We haven't talked much about the teams that have already made the playoffs, because we are going to be doing a playoff preview, so we'll talk more about every team and every series when that happens. Today we were just kind of talking about the races and what to look forward to in these last 3 games of the season. Yeah, so that's that. Do you have anything else to end this out?
Let's go baseball.
Let's go baseball. So if you're gonna watch a game, these are the series to watch. Texas and Seattle. Texas at Seattle. Houston Astros against the Diamondbacks. The Blue Jays against the Rays. And the Cubs against the Brewers, and the Marlins against the Pirates. Those are the 5 series. Is that how
just watch any of the teams that might make the postseason?
Postseason series. Yeah. So, if that's all we got, we thank you guys for watching, listening, viewing. If you liked, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next one, which will be the playoff preview or the recap of this weekend. Something. I don't know. We'll see you guys. Peace.